Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
Intane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Well, kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. For those of you that have been following us for a while, thank you very much. For anyone that's new, welcome to the journey. Welcome to this amazing platform where we can share knowledge. As you know, we scour the country, we scour the world to find people that we think we're amazing to tell a story. We think everyone is amazing, everyone's got a story to tell. But this is not a full-time job, so we try and find one person at a time because every story is pretty amazing. And as always, before I start the podcast, just a bit of a chat about my learning that I put into my basket since we last had the last podcast. One of the learnings and a beautiful piece of wisdom I heard today was I was at a workshop called Whakanui, which is about anti-racism. And it's really powerful. But one of the learnings that I had from one of the facilitators was they said a line that really resonated with me in my space. They basically said that let's not think of failure as something bad, but the way she framed it was you think about failures as the elder siblings of learnings. And that just really blew my mind. It's like that's a very, very positive way of looking at failure or mistakes. Because too many times in our world, the way we've been conditioned, the way our culture brings us up, or the way our narrative talks to us, failing is a bad thing. But if we reframe it, actually failures are just ways of learning. That's a good way to look at things. So that's what I think about. I'm going to think about it as I go on. And I think that's also a good segue or a good intro to our podcast today because I'm pretty sure my guest today will have lots of failures and lots of learnings along their journey. So we'll switch focus and I'll introduce our guest today. So I'll talk about how I know this guest today. I've never met them. As those of you that know our podcast, I don't meet a lot of people. They're just people that I think are amazing. And I've been following our guests for a while on LinkedIn, and the posts that they put on LinkedIn are just so powerful because they're real. Sometimes on LinkedIn you just see things that are all, "Hey, I'm awesome. Look at me, I've done this here." But what I like about what I resonated with this guest here is it was just real and raw. It wasn't all marketing, it was just a real story. And which is why I thought this is fantastic because a lot of the story resonated with what I felt and also what my parents will go through at some stage in their lives. So I reached out to them and because they sound pretty cool. And yeah, and I think their story is something that a lot of people that are listening to this podcast around the world are going through as the world becomes a world where there's no borders. The borders have disappeared, and we have lots of people traveling the world, creating communities of migrants around the country and across the world. But that's enough about me. I'd love to welcome, and I'm really privileged and honored to welcome Nimeesha to our podcast. Kia ora, Nimeesha. Welcome to Bastards of Knowledge.
Kia, thank you for inviting me.
No, beautiful, beautiful. Nimeesha, for people that know nothing about you, I gave a bit of a spiel about who you are as a person, but do you want to tell our listeners about who you are as a person at this point in time in your life?
Oh, yeah. So I am, or who am I? I think along my journey, I've been so many different people and you evolve over time. So currently I am the director of Sobnaz. And Sobnaz is a business that started in my mum's kitchen. So she was the founder of Sobnaz, and it's really strange because it was never on my horizon. I don't think she wanted to be a businesswoman. For her, it was a hobby just to keep her busy and to earn some money when she wasn't able to find work. And I was on my path to becoming an academic. So I was going to be an academic, was working on my PhD. And yeah, an opportunity came along and yeah, Mum and I thought, no, why don't we just try? And it's been an amazing journey. So yeah, we've been running for about 4 years. I look after all the admin side and all that side, and Mum is our creative director and she comes up with some amazing recipes. Yeah.
That's beautiful, and I love this. That's the stage where you're at this point in time, but there's so much more to that story. And I guess we'll start with the academic side because the reason I think that's really powerful, important to talk about is your academic world focus something that is really quite powerful. Is talking about, migrants and I guess how migrants adopt into new community. What was your drive towards that? Because I think, I myself have done when I did my PhD, it was a passion because I saw
Yeah.
something in the world that is like really, it wasn't that PhD about, oh, that sounds cool, dude. It's more like it came from the heart. And I guess that was your maybe lived experiences as well.
Yeah, definitely. So when I moved to New Zealand, I was in my mid-20s and I came on a working holiday. So I came here, I found a job really quickly with banking, and the bank helped me with my residency. It came through, it was very smooth. But when I was working, I started in a lower position to what I was doing in the UK. So my family are originally from East Africa. I was actually the only one who's been born in India, but we were brought up in the UK. So um, I don't have an accent, an Indian accent, but obviously I look Indian, and it was really good to start with because I came in, was able to get a job really quickly, but climbing the ladder was a whole different experience. Um, so I enjoyed my work, but I wasn't passionate about it. And I got married. As you know, being Indian, it's a cultural. You get married, or you can't be 30 and be single. So I got married, had my son, and then got divorced. Which was very stigmatizing. I think until my son was like 10 or 11, I wasn't even able to tell people I was divorced. People would ask me, and I'd be like, yep, he's doing this or he's that. Or I would avoid the conversation because it's actually a huge stigma even today to
Yeah.
be divorced. Um, Luckily, I was really lucky. My mum was really supportive because she'd seen what was happening in my life, and she actually pulled me from that marriage and said, look, I'm going to support you. And that in itself, I think, is very different to what most Indian women will experience. Usually, your parents encourage you to stick through it, whatever's happening. But she was just wonderful. She said, look, no, don't worry. I'll support you. I'll help you. You're not going to be on your own. So along that journey, I had my son. I carried on working in the bank. And then when he was about 10, I felt like I should be working towards a career, being more like I was working part-time and then I was studying. And I went into working into corporate in HR. And despite being the most qualified, my qualifications were very high, despite being the most experienced and getting performance reviews which were top level, like you couldn't get any higher than what I was getting, I was constantly overlooked for promotions. And they were always, it was always like, oh, but she's got experience in this and you haven't. And I'm like, yeah, actually I have. Or, but we want someone who's not as highly qualified as you. Or, and it was excuses, and it was really frustrating. And I looked around me and I saw other women like me with brown skin, with, not and one of the things I found was I didn't stay for after hour drinks. I didn't socialize with my managers or go to dinner with them, and the person I saw who was getting promoted was socializing with the top management. She was going for drinks with them. She was having coffee with them. And I had to go home for my son because that was my priority. And we had a team of five, four migrants. Actually, all five were migrants, but one was white migrant. And she was getting pushed ahead and ahead while everyone else was moving backwards. And I was like, this is not right. And I was getting frustrated at working. I might not have given it enough time, but I'm one of those very straightforward people. You can see what I feel on my face. It just wasn't working for me. I just heard too many horror stories from other friends and colleagues in the same situation. So I thought, nah, I'm just gonna, I want to do my PhD. I want to understand why, and if this a is this a lived reality of other migrant women? And so I applied for my PhD, and I thought if I get a scholarship, I'll do it, and if I don't, then I might have to keep working. And I was really lucky; I was able to get a scholarship. So I quit work, and it took me about a year to fully leave work because that is a worry. You have
Yeah.
responsibilities and you have family, and so. But yeah, it was definitely the best thing to do, and even I was shocked at what I found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll delve into that in a second, but I just want to talk about that because I think what you're talking about is real lived experiences,
Mm.
and it's I'm glad because you have two layers. The fact that you tick a box. I'm gonna use language that people you are a migrant and you're also a female, and those two double whammies of there's two barriers
Yeah.
right there, and also the perception of your certain skin color means you come from a certain place, and I appreciate that because I'm the same. I grew up in Africa. But I look Indian, and every conversation I have is, oh, so which part of India are you from? Like, I'm not actually from India.
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, but originally I was like, no, 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 I'm not. But what about your grandpa? I was like, yeah, but that's not me. That's not who I
Yeah.
am. That's
Mm.
And it's really interesting. And I empathize with you because when I was looking for jobs as well, a lot of my friends would say, you're not getting your jobs because your name. They just see your name and they go, see you later, and they told me I should change my name. And I was like, this is so ridiculous. My name is, and as you know, Nimeesha, your name is gifted to you in Indian culture. It's not
Yeah.
just you don't pick a name randomly. It's gifted to you based on
Mm.
the alignment of the stars and the priest and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, no, how can I just change my name and change my identity? And so I really resonate with that with you. And that's why I was like, this is crazy that it happens, and it happens today. In 2024, we assume that doesn't
Yeah.
happen in the world we live in, but it happens all the time. And yeah, so I love that share, and I love that it inspired you to actually go and study it and actually find the data because sometimes we just live in, oh well, oh, this is just me.
Mm.
But when you're going, actually there's more stories out there. It changes, hopefully changes the dynamic. So what is it like for you as you started your PhD in the space here? Because that would have ruffled a couple of feathers as you start doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I thought I had it rough,
Yes.
and when I started it, I it was interesting because I knew what I wanted to do, and I went there and I had supervisors, and it was very interesting. I had two male supervisors and a female supervisor who really got what I wanted to do, and the male supervisors who just wanted to get this PhD across the line so they can do a tick box exercise, I felt,
Funding. Yep. Yep.
and just, would just say, oh, yeah, yes, let's do this, or yes, let's do this. And I'm like, it's not what I want to do. So it
Yep.
took me a while to get to the point where I was able to say, okay, I don't want these supervisors. And I cried over that. Um, Found an amazing supervisor, had two amazing female supervisors, the best anyone could ask for, who allowed me to follow my heart and passion and study what I wanted to study. And, I think the best thing is that women are actually now more vocal. They want to tell their stories. When I started, I was like, oh, will I get enough participants? Will women want to tell me their stories? Maybe it's just me, or maybe, but I found when I put the call out for participants, initially it was hard to find people, but LinkedIn's amazing. One of my participants put it on LinkedIn who connected with someone else. I came to work one day, well, to uni one day, and opened my laptop up, and I had like 90 emails from women.
Wow. Wow.
I only needed to do 30 interviews, and it was increasing by all these women who wanted to tell their story. And it's not just the color of your skin,
Yeah.
it's your accent. And I think what you said about changing your name, women who are like, how am I going to answer when someone calls me by this new name? because my whole life I've been identified as this person with this name, and now I have to change that, change who I am. So yeah, it was. I actually cried at some of the interviews. Some places I went, like, I would meet someone, I would go in, and before I'd even got my book and my, recorder out, they had already started telling me everything that happened to
Wow.
them since they had moved here. And, it's heartbreaking to hear those stories because, yeah, as a woman and a woman of color, you are hit by that double whammy. But then you've also got family and cultural expectations.
Yeah.
You have societal expectations. You're moving into this whole society which has all these different constructs of how you should be living and what you should be doing to what you have been brought up, to living. So it was really hard for me to hear some stories, um, you know, not getting jobs because uh, or not getting promoted because of for ridiculous reasons, like the silliest reasons. And these were highly qualified women. So I specifically only interviewed women who had been to university, had high levels of education, had studied in English. And, people were saying, oh, I remember one lady who said she had to give a language test.
Wow.
Like literally, she was asked to have a conversation so they could see if her language skills were. And
That
she was fully, like, she spoke really elegant, like really sophisticated English. Like her level was way above mine. And I
yes.
was brought up in the UK. So she was so fluent. And she said to me during the interview, she said, no, but if you close the recorder and then play it back, you won't understand what I'm saying. And I left that interview and I sat in my car and I cried. That was like the first interview I really just, and I came back to university and I saw my supervisor in the hallway and she said, are you okay? And I'm like, and I was blubbering because this was, she had a PhD. She was a qualified psychologist. And she couldn't even get low skilled jobs. Like her ambition at that stage when I interviewed her was to go and work in a kindy looking after babies because she wouldn't need language skills and that nobody would question her language skills.
That's that's um that's pretty sad to hear. But
Yeah.
before, shout out to your supervisors though. So to your supervisors, big shout out to them to go, hey, we actually hear and see you and feel you because that's
Mm.
important. Otherwise this wouldn't happen. But and as you say, it's again, shout out to all the people that got in touch with you because again, as you said before, a story not told doesn't mean the story doesn't happen. So the fact that they
Yeah.
reached out to you is really powerful, and the fact that you were there to capture them, tears and no tears, is really really beautiful. And as you navigated the journey and you closed up because you got a lot to cover, I guess, or we can keep talking about there. What is one of the big things that stood out for you in your, I guess when you start a thesis, you have a hypothesis, and when you finish up, where you're like, wow, this is actually such a different world, and yeah, it just blew your mind.
Um, I think you mean what did I find at the end?
I guess for you,
Mm.
there's the research outcome which you got to
I
set a
found
certain research
so
brief.
yeah. I mean, I think when I started it, I was on a real down when I started
Yeah,
it because I'd had those really experiences, and I was like, you know, I wanted to know if everybody was feeling those experiences. So it's quite a low that I started at. And I think one of the things I found during those interviews was experience, confidence. There were so many factors coming into the play for what migrant women were experiencing. But at the end, just as I finished and I was about to submit, I got an email from a participant who, when I had interviewed her 4 years previously, had told me she saw no future. in New Zealand, career-wise. She had completely lost her career. She was never going to rebuild it. No one had faith in her. Even her husband couldn't understand what she was going through. She felt that all she would ever be is a housewife or a low-paid worker. And during that, and when she was telling me, I was like, no, but I think you have so much potential. I think you should keep going and do something, because I'm sure you will find your way. 4 years after she emailed me to tell me that she was so grateful that she had been able to tell her story to me, because hearing it, and I sent all my participants the recordings, and when she played it back, she was like, she couldn't believe how low she had come and how low her confidence was. But even speaking to me and allowing her story to be told, she had decided she's going to do something. And she had made that step into voluntary work and into counseling, and she had got a job, and she was now in a position that was almost on par to what she was doing in her home country.
Oh, wow.
And she said it'd been hard, but being able, and I think this is one of the things I think, and this is why I think what you're doing is amazing. Being able to tell your story is hugely empowering. It's like sometimes you can just live inside of what you're doing and be just, it pulls you down and you can't see a way out. But I encourage everyone to find someone who they can tell their story to, because that's hugely empowering, because it allows you to see what's actually happening and to find your path. And I follow a lot of my participants on LinkedIn. So a lot of us connected with each other. And I love looking at LinkedIn and seeing how far they've gone or what they're doing now. And I can see women who have progressed from where they were to where they are. And a lot of them, they might have lost their career that they had in their home country, but they focused again and they've just, and it's been tough. And so I think one of the biggest findings was that, and I want all migrant women to hear, is that there is a light, not just migrant women, for migrant men, for anyone who
Yes.
comes to New Zealand. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, but sometimes you have to take a few left or right turns, and it's not always linear. And sometimes you might have to go back. And I know so many people who went backwards to go forwards.
And that's so powerful, right? And that's where, things like ego has to be put aside, society's expectations, all those things that, as you said at the start, all those invisible weights we all carry. You have to
Yeah,
go, right, let me just put them away and actually make some change. But also, I like what you said before, sometimes just speaking things out makes it real. When
yes,
you have it in here, it's not real. It's just circulating. But when you speak it and you hear it back, you go, whoa, wait a minute.
yeah,
Both positive and negative, you go, oh, am I sounding like
mm,
that? Oh, yeah. So it's,
yeah,
which is why when we do presentation skills, we get people to record themselves, not to see what they
mm,
like, but actually the story. Like, oh, I'm not actually not, especially those that are very nervous. I'm
yeah,
actually quite confident, and it's really beautiful that you're able to do that. So, this if we take away the research aspect, just the fact that we're able to share their stories with them is really beautiful. So yeah, again, a powerful piece of work. But I like what you said. It's not just about being migrant female. It's about anyone that feels any sort of discrimination or any sort of just weight on their shoulders. Like you said, there's light.
there is light at the end of time, because I know that we hide this, but one of the biggest things with New Zealanders are lovely people. And
Yes.
this came through over and over. They're lovely people. They don't want to hurt you, so they don't tell you the truth. They'll
Yeah.
be really nice to you. You go to interviews, they're super nice, and you think you've done really well, but then they don't give you the job because they just want to be so nice to you, because they don't want to have that, oh no, be hard or be cruel. So in the UK, we're used to open racism.
Yeah.
It's out there. It's really, you face it, but because you can see it, you handle it and you know how to deal with it. New Zealand, you don't see it. It's really covert. It's there. It's simmering along. It's bubbling. and people have all these biases and prejudices, and we talk about it being unconscious bias, but I think that's a cop out. I think people know, that it's there, but it's whether they choose to work on that or just say no, it's unconscious bias and ignore it. But there's a lot of racism in New Zealand. I saw it from the day I moved to New Zealand. I've heard it. I haven't experienced it to that extent because I have a English accent, but I know so many people who don't have an English accent and who are constantly facing
Yes.
that discrimination. And yeah, it's just so, it's like you don't want to say, oh, New Zealand's racist, but the reality is it is. But unfortunately, it's not racism that you can openly
Yeah, call out.
face.
That's right. Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can't
So
say, oh no, you're being racist because they're being so nice to you.
yeah. Yeah, it's really quite funny. I talk to people and I was like, hey, when I was in Africa, someone's racist, straight away. They'll just tell you, hey, they'll call your name straight on your face, and you
Yeah,
go, right, cool, this is easy. I know where I stand.
yeah.
But here it'll be behind closed doors when you're not in the room. Or, you go, right, cool. I'd rather have in my face, I know where I stand, nice and easy versus
Mm.
the overt one. And so thank you for bringing that there. And I want to talk about that because that is going to be the context of the conversation, but also the triumph that you've had as well, because you've gone through that there. Now you do this amazing piece of mahi, this amazing piece of work here, and in the background, your mom is there doing her thing.
Mm.
So let's talk about that there. So yeah, you are doing your research, you have your young person as well. And obviously mom is like, hey, I'm pretty bored, let me do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, she started doing the farmers markets, is that correct?
Yeah. So yeah, my son was going to school. She was just bored at home. She wanted to go back to work, and we'd moved from where we used to live, so she couldn't go back to her old job, and she couldn't find any work where we in Ariwa that would, she was in her mid 50s by then.
Yeah,
And she didn't know what to do. So she started going to the farmer's market with my sister in law to help look after my niece, who is 16 now, but she was only 6 months old at the time. And over time, mum really enjoyed it. Like, my mum is very, she loves people. She loves talking to people. She loves feeding people, meeting and sharing and all of that. So she felt really lonely at home. The markets were great. And then over time, my sister in law decided that she didn't want to do markets. And my mum had slowly been taking over anyway. So she was making like samosa and pakora and selling them at the markets. And so she wrote me in, and I was doing my PhD, I think, at the time. No, actually, I was working. So I was working 5 days a week. On Saturdays, we would spend all day making samosa. And then Sundays, we would go to market. And it was exhausting, but she loved it. And so
yeah,
it was something for me to give back to her because she'd spent so many years looking after my son. And over time, people were asking her to make meals for them, or can you do this? Can you do that? And that was going to be a bit too much. So mum used to, like, my mum, every year, alternate year, would go back to the UK or back to India, and she would make a big jar of curry paste to leave with us
yeah.
so that I could make meals at home. Because when my son was 10, he refused to stay at home with me. He said that I apparently don't feed him, and with Nana gone, it was really hard. And he convinced her and his teacher at school to let him have 5 weeks off school to go to the UK with her.
With that.
I was
Wow.
like, fine. And I did feed him, but obviously, um,
Yes.
as a bit of a nana's boy. And so she would leave these curry paste. And so we thought, oh, yeah, mum could make those and bottle them, and we'll sell them at the markets with the food. And they were really popular. Like, people really loved the authentic Indian flavors. They didn't have preservatives or artificial colors or anything like that. And so we were ticking along with that, and it was still a hobby because I wanted to do my academia and I was on my track. And then during lockdown in 2020, um, I think we'd only, like, I don't have social media. At that time, I had no social media. I don't think I have any social media apart from LinkedIn. I don't really post. I had just started up a Facebook page for her just to let people know which market we would be at.
Yeah.
But during lockdown, we were really worried about her mental health, being at home, locked up all day. So I
Yes.
was like, let's just, you make dinner, I'll record it, unfiltered,
Yeah.
usually with us arguing over something or other. We'll just post it onto Facebook. I was like, whatever. And it became viral. Like, people was
Oh wow.
liking it, and we get more and more followers. And we went from like 70 to 6,000 followers from the
Wow.
beginning of lockdown to the end. And then people were like, oh, can you send us some of your curry paste? And it was like people from like Invercargill and Stewart Island and random places.
Wow.
And so we were like, okay, but how do we do this? So we were selling these jars, and I would print out the labels every weekend, glue stick them on. And I was like, I don't think that works for a real business. It was just a
Yeah.
hobby business. So we had to learn from scratch. I had no idea. Finding a courier, getting a website set up and running, um, you know, FPOS, all those things that we had not even thought about.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, and we made mistakes. I made
Yes.
mistakes because mum was like, I'm making the curry paste. I don't deal with anything else.
I have
But
one job. I have one job. This is it. Yeah.
yeah, everything else is you.
Yeah.
And we were making mistakes, but it took us about 6 months, I think, before we had a website up and running. Um, in between May and October, I was taking orders on Facebook
Yeah.
and sending them out with a courier. During lockdown, I was actually driving around Auckland from like
Wow.
6 in the morning to like 8 in the evening, or even later, doing
Dropping
deliveries.
things off. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was just, and then it was like, it's an opportunity. You almost feel like it was just a gift. And
Yeah.
like, what do? Do you just say, no, we'll leave it? And we thought, okay, look, we'll make it work. I felt like this is something my mum's so passionate about. It's something she can leave. It's, she's worked hard. She's done so much for us. This is something I can give back to her. And I kind of envisioned us having the website, like online sales, for maybe 5 years, doing markets and things like that, and shows, and then looking at retail.
Yes.
Yeah, it didn't work out that way, but that was like the plan at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great because like we said at the start, you have all these plans, but reality comes into play, and you go, wait a minute, actually, I've got to do a lot of unlearning to do some relearning. But
Yeah.
I guess for you, when was the moment when you want actually academia? I'm going to stop now, and actually I'm going to go and do this. This is more than just about not a career pathway. This is, as you said before, it's giving back to your mum in a way that's loving, but also as a legacy for her as she lives her life.
So I think it happened, like, I was just at the end of my PhD. I was writing up my findings when obviously COVID happened and the business
Yes,
just took off. So um, I ended up taking a 2 year break from my PhD. So, like, on and off, like
yes,
over 3 years. Um, and I still wanted to go in academia. So I still wanted to have something to connect me with what I did, because I felt like my research was so important, and it still is important to me. But with the moment I think we thought, no, this is just, it's a fully fledged, we've got to put all our energy into it, was 2021, when we were online, and then we won an award for the curry paste. We won a silver award for the curry paste. And two customers messaged me. Like, it's always, our customers are the ones who drive our business. I'll be
yeah,
absolutely honest. They always tell me what to do. I got a message saying, "Oh, Woolworths are going to start up this Kete program. I really think you should apply." And I was like, "I haven't even heard of this. I don't know where.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah.
What are you talking about?" And she sent me a link, and I was like, nah, not really us, because I've only just about understood how to have a courier and packaging and labels, and all these things have taken me so long, and I've made so many mistakes. I had a website, decided no, I didn't like it, went to, and I'm really OCD. So I am really, I've always had that, I need to keep control of what's happening. So I was doing everything myself. And I have a lovely lady who does our website and runs all that side for me. Absolutely lovely. And I wanted to keep everything local. I was like, nah. But then someone else emailed me and she's like, no, have you heard of this? You really need to apply. And I was like, eh. And I was like, said, told my mum, and I'm like, nah. But then I thought, the night before, I applied the night before.
Oh, wow.
And that is the story of my life. I always do everything right at the last minute, put it all in. And I was just like, okay, let's go. And it's done and dusted. And then we were told we were shortlisted to the top 10. And
Oh,
we had to
wow.
do this
Yeah.
presentation to the key Woolworths team. And yeah, we were one of the 5 businesses
Selected.
selected.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were like, okay. And they were going to give us 12 months to get the business upscaled enough to launch in a certain number of stores.
Yeah.
Now, this is when I say you shouldn't accept what other people's perceptions are of you. And I love the Woolworths team, I really do. But I know they had an interview and I listened to the interview, and the perception I think they had of us for my mum's business was she's a grandmother, she runs a home business, makes everything in the kitchen. So we'll probably give them like 20 stores, 15 to 20 stores, mostly in Auckland.
Yeah.
And that was a conversation that was happening. And, the other businesses, they probably want to go to Woolworths in Australia, so they'll probably go. But Sobna's, she's the grandmother, so she'll probably stay small in Auckland. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I could have said, yeah, okay, we'll take that. Whatever we're getting, we'll accept it. I did not accept it, and I didn't accept it. I did what I thought was the best thing, and I worked with our category manager, who was amazing. And they had another lady who worked with compliance, and she was amazing. Best people I've ever worked with. They're so good. And we said, okay, we need to upscale, so we need some help here. And we did this thing, and it took us 18 months.
Oh, wow.
Not
Yeah.
the 12th, but the 18th. I think we were the 4th company that launched into Woolworths. We weren't the last out of the 5, but we were the 4th. And along this journey, I don't know what happened, but our category manager decided that he was going to give us 107 stores.
Oh, wow.
And, and he was great, because I would call him up and say, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I would have panic attacks, and I would be like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And he would spend 45 minutes with me on the phone, calming me down,
Oh, wow.
which most CMs don't have time for, but he did. And we launched in 107 stores in December 2023. So it was about 18 months
Wow.
after we had been chosen.
Wow.
And when that happened, it was like, okay, this is definitely fully fledged. We can take this business so much further. And yeah, so
Amazing.
that was the driving. And that's what I mean when I say, don't accept what's given to you in that box. Like, break that box down, because you can. You just have to be strong enough to believe in yourself. And a lot of the times I haven't believed in myself. I feel like, nah, it's not going to work. Or no one will buy it. Oh, it's going to take us so long. But you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your product and what
Yeah.
you're trying to achieve.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally. And that's so beautiful. I love that for so many reasons because I love the fact. First of all, shout out to Woolworths for believing in you, but shout out to you as well for putting the application in the last minute. And here's a crazy trend, Nimeesha, that I have with a lot of people that have jumped on the podcast. They've all said the same thing. They don't believe that they're the right person. They don't think they're good enough or whatever. But they put the application in the very last minute. It's a
yeah,
last minute thing, and quite often it's the last minuters that actually end up doing really well for some weird reason. Who knows what it is? But it's really beautiful. But what also I love about your story is that it's not a linear pathway. You had a plan,
yeah.
and from 12 months it became 18 months, from 15 stores it became 107 stores. It's just the way life goes. And what I heard from there is you have a plan, but the plan just goes out the window as soon as every single day. The plan goes out the
Oh,
window.
it does. And I fully believe um, everyone's time comes when they least expect it.
Yeah,
And there are some amazing, amazing people out there who have your back and who are like your angels. They will come in at times when you don't expect it, and it just takes you on a whole different level. You know, like we were so lucky. We had an amazing category manager. We were so lucky that Woolworths believed in us because they essentially believed in us and still are supporting us. Um, so I do believe, but you have to put yourself out there. If you don't put yourself out there, for me, if I hadn't filled that application in, we'd still be online possibly.
yeah.
I did an accelerator program last year. It was horrible.
Oh, no.
It was like really horrible. I cried so much because it just fell apart on me. And 2 weeks later, I applied for another accelerator program. And my mum looked at me and she said, "Are you out of your head? You've just gone through one that you hated, and now you're applying for another one." And I was like, "Yeah, but it might be better. It might not be." The first one I had taken myself out of because it was so toxic. This might be better. And that's been amazing.
Yeah,
That team, we did at Seed Lab, they are the village I never knew I needed. They've taken us completely into their village, and now that's led to an opportunity of going and being stocked in Woolworths in Australia.
it's amazing. It's amazing.
You do have to take yourself, you have to be, there are times when it's going to be really tough. I have, when our labels, 10,000 labels, Ron, the barcodes weren't up to
Well,
standard.
yeah.
I cry. I cry a lot, I think. Sometimes I've
Noticing a
never
trend
cried
here.
so
Yeah.
much at running this business as I have been in the workplace. I had a complete breakdown at that stage. I was on the verge of submitting my thesis. Our labels
Oh,
came back, failed GS1 standard. Caroline at GS1, I absolutely love her. I don't just, call her for GS1 issues or label or barcode issues. I call her for everything now. I call her husband. That's what I mean. You have to really put yourself out there. If you don't, but that's hard. That's really, really hard. It's not as easy as people think. And it's harder when you're a migrant
yeah.
to do that. Much, much harder. So you do have to put yourself out there and you have to go through some shit, really. Some
Yeah.
really bad shit. But you have to do it.
Yeah, you totally have to do it. I mean, it's so easy to sit back and go, no, it's too hard. Someone else.
Yeah,
I'm just going to be content with my life as it is,
yeah,
and just coast and complain. But it's awesome that you didn't. But also a shout out to the people that believed in you, not just your product, but also believing someone that has got a migrant story.
mm,
Because as you said right at the start, that is the first difficulty. But people out there believed you and put that all aside and actually believed in the product, which is really beautiful. And
yeah,
then, as you said before, Caroline has now become your basically your go-to person, and Seed Lab
yeah,
has taken you on board, which is really really fantastic. So that's great. And I guess it's going to be we're recording this in November 2024, so it's going to be 1 year in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
how does that feel for you? You know, 1 year ago this is the first time it was in the Woolworths, and a year later, how do you?
So this is so we were in Woolworths December 2023. So we'll have been in Woolworths for almost 2 years. At the end of this year, it will hit 2 years.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's. I think for us, I've always wanted to take it slowly. Like we had the opportunity with New World earlier in the year, but I've really taken. I didn't even fill the forms out until maybe a month ago.
yeah,
Um, I feel like we're this year's been really bad for us in many ways. Many times I've wanted to give up, um, but it's also we've had a lot of wins this year. Um, I think I can't believe how fast this year's gone by, but
yeah,
we've been working a lot on lots of different things. So yeah, can't believe where we're at. I think I was planning on going into retail in January 2025.
yeah,
So that didn't quite happen. We went in 2 years earlier, and hopefully, next year we can start launching in New World here. Faro Fresh we launched in last year, which was great.
beautiful.
Um, One of the challenges I think we've faced a lot is educating people on our products, because when you go to supermarkets, you see all the sauces and the products, and it's butter chicken and korma and your all these with yeah, and we don't make those. We make
Yeah,
very versatile, fully cooked out curry paste, and so that's been quite a journey, and we work hard on that. And so we're really active on this year. We've been really active on social media. We find that our customers come from social media, so it's
yeah.
really one of those, because we can't afford $50,000 on marketing.
Marketing, yeah, totally.
Marketing, we can't. We've I think we had someone do our marketing for a month
Yes,
until I took it back.
yeah.
Um, it's really hard. Like I really think I look at the way we've run up so far, and I look at how I look at think if there was somebody else who didn't have the support I had, I think it would have been really easy to give up, because
I
you
think that
do face a lot of challenges. And mum and I are really lucky because we're financially stable. So from the business, we can grow the business and reinvest into the business.
yes,
But when you don't have that financial stability and you're depending on that business for your income, that becomes a huge challenge.
yeah. Especially when you're a small business and you're
Yes.
trying to, but also one of your posts that really hit home with me was your post about I can't remember what the event was, but it was I think there was some Indian women who came over to talk about being, you know, startup entrepreneurs, but the tickets were so expensive that you're like, hey, this is meant for us, but actually we can't go to it. So how does this actually
Yeah.
work? It doesn't, it makes no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I even think there should be more events like that for migrant women or migrant women entrepreneurs, because they aren't able to afford. It wasn't a hugely expensive ticket. It was $100 something, but that for a small business,
Yep, it's a lot of
A,
money.
they're taking a whole day out of their business,
Yeah,
then they're having to pay that for one person to go to that event. And those events are really important for migrant women. I really
yes,
do feel, because migrant women don't have the ability to go to many events. Um, they're trying to balance house, home, family, and a business. And I know those are really challenging. Like my son will easily tell you that for the last 7 years, he only randomly sees his mother because she's always busy. Because running a business is a huge, and even
yeah,
when I was doing my PhD, there was a lot of work.
yeah,
So we don't have that time to be able to, or the money to be able to attend these events.
yeah,
Um, And so we should have more events like that. And I think we should have them during the weekend as well, when women are able to say, okay, husband or family or someone is able to take care of the children, or we can bring the children with us.
Yeah.
Um, Also, just to have, like, I feel like sometimes it's like some of the challenges I faced, they're really easy to overcome. But when you don't know how or what those challenges are going to be coming towards you, they become huge.
That's right.
Like,
Yeah.
they become really, really huge. So, yeah, I feel like migrant women entrepreneurs don't have the support network that they need in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Um, I think there needs to be more done. I think migrant women are huge value. They bring so much. They have so many skills. Um, they are able to achieve so much, but they just don't have. There's nothing in place to support them to make those achievements or reach those milestones.
Which is why it's so awesome to see people like yourself, to see people like Murnali,
Yes.
Aditi, Simran Kaur, who's just
Mm,
really done Alexi Hill, who's just done some really fantastic
yeah.
work for migrant women, and they've just
Mm,
blown the glass ceiling. But also, what that has done is empowered. When you look at the social media feeds and look at the comments, it's it's young females, but a lot of them are migrants that are just going, hey, they can see themselves in that space there, and they are just breaking the status quo. So it's really beautiful to have that, to have
yeah.
those stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. And it's so good. And you have to remember that role models, it's not just, you want older role models who can be role models to the younger generations. And this is where we're kind of like, we're seeing amazing women, the young Asian women doing so much at the moment. But we need more older role models like Ranjana Patel, and to
Yes.
show that, hey, younger generations coming up, you can do this. You can, um, and I think, like, for mum and I, like, it doesn't have to. You don't have to be young. Like,
Yeah, totally.
I just, I've just hit 50, and mum's in her 70s. So, we've just come in like, you're like, okay, we're doing this at an age where we should be thinking about retirement, I would hope. But, you know, women who are like, when I was in my 40s, I was like, oh, is this where I give up? I felt like I had to go to work.
Yeah.
I remember because my son was 10 and I was coming up to my 40th. Now I felt that, oh, I shouldn't be studying anymore. I should be working, doing a 9 to 5 job, coming home, bringing, some income into the house. And really, no, that's nothing. You can start your life, your career, your business at any stage of your life.
Yeah.
It can be at any time. You can build up stability so you've got some financial backing and then start. Or you can take the risk earlier. It's great when you do it earlier. Love it when I see younger girls do it earlier because like they're building they're going to build an amazing future for themselves and for so many other. But it can be at any time. You shouldn't restrict yourself or think you're past it. I feel that's the biggest thing.
I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest lie the world has been told, right? The biggest lie that, hey,
Biggest lie, yeah,
this is it, and then you go, oh, you've passed your prime. This is
exactly.
ridiculous, ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah, you've hit this age and now there's nothing for you. And
yeah,
if you think about it, we lived till the age of 80 plus.
yeah,
If my mum had given up when she was in her mid 50s and thought, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to stay at home, she would have been unhappy. She would have
yeah,
been bored. And her whole life, that's what the path that she would have taken.
yes,
And, I'm glad what she went ahead and she did what she did and she worked at it. And yeah, it was a hobby business, but it's become something so much more.
yeah. It's so funny because I always reflect about this the word retirement age. It's a very Western concept.
Mm,
When you visit India or in Africa, there's no such thing as retirement. Nobody says, "Oh, 65, I'm done." They just
yeah,
keep working. And I was like,
yeah,
isn't it crazy that in some parts of the world we have this, you stop working at 65, like. bit ridiculous in other parts of the world. There's no, you just, hey, I love what I do. I'm gonna, or I'm just, I need to keep surviving and keep busy. It's such a
Yeah,
crazy construct that we put onto ourselves.
yeah, no, completely agree. And it's true. The more you work and you're passionate about your work and you're happy in what you're doing, the happier life you have. Because in the day, we don't know how long we have to
Yeah,
live. So I don't see why you would say, okay, this is the age, not moving forward. So I think that's one of the big things. And because I had a lot of participants when I did my PhD who were in their late 30s or in their 40s, and they felt that that was it.
yeah,
They were never going to be able to get that career back. And I feel like no, because you shouldn't. You should try and keep going. And even with this business, like I never ever imagined we would be where we are.
yeah,
I still think I have to pinch myself. My mum often says it's a dream that she never knew or
yeah,
never had. For her,
yeah,
she loves it. She loves going out, and when she bumps into a customer or someone who follows her on on Facebook or something, and she's like, oh, she's like, they recognize me, and it's great. I feel like for her, she's living the dream. Like it's just, and you should. And I think it's so good to, and I feel really blessed to be doing it with my mum.
yeah,
I think for me, like it's the best blessing that I could have ever had. Like I think being able to work with her, and we still argue, but it's just brought us so much closer. It's a bond. Um,
beautiful.
yeah, it's just made us
Yes.
a bond stronger.
And what does your mom feel having her name in all the supermarkets? I'm guessing it's her name, right? So
It is.
yeah, yeah,
Well, it's funny because she didn't get much of a say when I decided to
yeah,
rebrand. When we were doing the like, even when because she used to we never used to put sobnas on the curry paste.
yes,
And I was like, no, we need a name on it. So I just went and did it. And then when we were upscaling and making the labels for the website, um, yeah, I just put it. And her name isn't actually Sobna.
yeah,
Her name's Subhadra, but my grandmother used to call her Sobna.
yeah,
And it was like, no, we'll just do that. We'll just put it on. And it's funny because now she hadn't used that name or heard that name in reference to herself for so many years.
yeah.
But now everyone who comes up, oh, you Sobna? And she's like, yeah, I am.
What a great identity, right? It's so cool. That's so beautiful. And I like that because I just see the smile it brings you, but also, you've spoken about the struggles, but hey, I'm sure every day there must be smiles on your face as you walk into a store and you see your mom, I saw the video the other day you posted of in the factory with the jars
Yeah,
being filled. Those are joyful moments. There's a struggle that goes behind, but those moments are priceless.
yeah, no, they are. And even if next year or in 2 years the business we closed it up and whatever, hopefully touch wood we wouldn't. But
Yeah.
it's been such an amazing journey for her and for us to do together. And um, we never thought it would be where it is. And I never even thought Australia wasn't even on our radar until I think 2030 or something
Oh wow.
ridiculous,
Wow.
We hadn't even thought about that. And yet we went there last year and they loved it. And we're going back and, next year and hopefully, might be in war stores in Australia. So I think nothing's easy
Yeah.
and there are always challenges and you're always going to make mistakes. And what you said earlier, failure is just success at the next step.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, you give up. Although I felt like giving up a number of times and um, I just would come home and like under my blanket and cry and like no one talked to me. And I've had that twice this year as well. It's like, but every mistake you make
Yes.
is, yeah, exactly. It's something like I never had transit insurance for when
Oh
our
wow.
jars came from the factory to our storage unit.
Yes.
And we had a whole pallet of stock.
Yes.
Yeah. And no, I didn't speak to anyone for 3 days at that time. But my mum, she never ever, she was just like, it's a lesson that
Yeah.
that we need to take transit
Ownership. Right.
insurance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we need to look at our insurance policies and look at what we need to do. So if this happens again, we've got cover. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's how we, and if you look at it that way, that's the only way you can move forward.
And that's so true, at every challenge it's so easy to give up, like you said
Oh,
before. It's so
yeah.
easy to go. And also to blame, the blame game. It's easy to blame other people. Oh, it's not my fault. You should have told me, but actually, wait, it's not my business. So it's easy, it's human nature, right? We always try and blame people.
Yeah, but I was speaking to someone else who is has a small business, and she's been much higher roles, really, and I said to her, do you have transit insurance? And she's like, and so it's, you don't know until
Happens
someone
to you,
either
right?
tells you
Yeah,
or it happens to you.
that's right. Yeah. I mean, let's just be honest. If you had never had that accident happen, you'd never today you'd be like, what are you talking about? What's transit insurance?
Yeah,
Because it
yeah.
happened. And it's, you just never know. As you said before, things happen for a reason at a particular time. And
Mm,
it might save you from something that happens in the future, but you had no idea. So it's really, really beautiful.
yeah.
Nimeesha, this is really beautiful. I love to also just shift the focus. What is the most fun you've had? We spoke of the challenges. This has got to be some fun time that you go, which brings you joy. You've spoken about your mom, which is great, but what about for you? What are the fun things? Being an entrepreneur, small business owner, but also living a life. You have a young person as well, and yeah, what are some fun things that you've had as you've done this journey here?
I think I've met some amazing people.
Yeah,
Um, amazing people. I think for me, not having to go to a 9 to 5 job is the best thing ever.
beauty.
Um, I've actually been really lucky. So I've been able to, over the years, take time out from work and study. Um, and I've done a lot of that. So I think we talk about, you should have this timeline of you should get this done by this age and this by this age. And I haven't followed that timeline at all. I had my son when I was 29. Um, I went back to really low paid part time work, but I was able to enjoy spending time with him as he was growing up. Then I went to study. We've only ever taken holidays in New Zealand,
Yes,
but that's been great. And my niece and nephew and my brothers, and just that's been one of the amazing things. But I think New Zealand's a beautiful place to live. Um, but for me, in terms of fun, fun things, I don't know if I just not having to go to a 9 to 5 job.
hey, we'll
It's
take
the
that. We'll
best
take
thing in
that.
the world.
Yeah, we'll
I,
take
I
that.
don't work 9 to 5 now.
A
I
little
could be
longer, right?
working till midnight.
Yeah,
I could be sick. So we do need to move out of the house. So touch wood, we're looking at moving the business out of the house now.
yeah,
But and I know a lot of people are like, oh, do you not think you should have done that earlier and everything? And I think you do things when you're confident and you're happy
yeah.
and you feel like, no, this is the time.
It's the right time,
Um, but yeah, being able to work at, you know, at my own pace, at my mum's pace, and our cooking, we still do our own cooking videos, and those bring us a lot of joy.
Yeah,
It's so much fun, even though mum and I argue. I always want to do like crazy recipes which are not traditional and completely off the cuff, and she just looks at me. And we made ice cream burfi the other day, and she said
yeah.
she was convinced it wasn't going to work. It worked. It was really
Amazing.
good. um, but yeah, I think just having that's the best thing about doing a family business. Um, you're able to work with people you love,
Yeah, and that's so beautiful.
and you know, for me, mum and I have so much fun. We've traveled across New Zealand, and I pretty sure that Airbnb should sponsor us, because I've lived in Mum and I have lived in so many Airbnbs doing food shows and expos, and you know, I sometimes think that it's too tiring for her, but she's the first one who wants to be like, no, let's do
Oh,
it.
wow. Amazing.
We've got Go Green this weekend, and then we've got another one the follow 2 weeks, and she loves it. She loves traveling. She loves meeting people, and you know, so that's been a lot of fun for just us to do.
Yeah,
Just
totally.
Mum and I packing the car up and going on the road and staying in Airbnbs, and yeah,
That's so
that's been a lot of fun.
it's so amazing because I was with some family the other day, and I remember my cousin saying to my aunt, say, "Hey, mum, we should go on a girls' trip sometime." But it sounds like you're living the girls' trip almost every day.
Always, yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. This
pretty
is yeah,
much,
yeah,
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't think Mum would ever go to an Airbnb and travel the way we've traveled, but we
yeah,
have, like, we just pack the car up and we go to a show, and it's just, and we've met some amazing people with other businesses. That's been also awesome, just connecting with other small businesses and having
yeah.
those relationships and people to work with and bounce ideas off. And so that's been really good. But you do have to kind of put yourself out, and it's a lot of work. Like this year we've done less shows. Last year we were literally every month we were away somewhere.
Yeah.
um but yeah, and then you're in an Airbnb, and food's always a challenge because Mum and I both got sick. Mum doesn't like restaurants,
Yeah.
and by the end of it I was sick of eating out, so we would just
Yeah.
be cooking at home in the Airbnb in a small little kitchen.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It works out, right? It all works. Yeah. So
it's like a girls' weekend away. Yeah,
that's really beautiful. I love that because I can just see the joy that it brings in your face. Just the
yeah,
visceral joy is so beautiful to see. Nimeesha, we've been chatting for almost an hour and 15 minutes, which is, like I said to you at the start, the conversation will go however it goes. And it's
yeah.
really beautiful. I'm sure we can go down a lot more, but I'm mindful of time. And also, you've shared a lot today. But I don't want to let you go off just yet because I have two more questions. And I guess the first question is, where can people find your product? So I'll put them in the show notes as well. But if somebody wants to go, hey, this sounds really cool, I want to try Sobnas, what can they do?
So online. So we have a website and we have
Yep.
all our products on there. So lots of products, lots of gift packs and everything like that. We also have a lot of recipes and we have free ebooks and resources on there. You can also buy our curry paste at Woolworths across New Zealand and Faro Fresh in Auckland.
Beautiful, beautiful. I was actually on your website just before, and I
Mm.
was looking at what I loved about it was, as you said before, you sell the packs. So I was looking at, okay, what is a butter chicken pack? And you have the garam masala and you have everything. Then you have the recipe to go with it. Sometimes you have these things, I don't know what do I do with this here, but the recipes, it's really, really beautiful. It's a
Mm.
great synergy of the two, which is really beautiful. So if you're listening out there and your taste buds are now tingling, jump onto the website or go to Woolworths, Faro's Fresh if you live in Auckland to try it and let us know how it goes for you as well. And let Nimeesha and her mum know if you give that a crack because we love that there. And the second question I have for you is our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge. And every week we invite our guests to share a piece of knowledge to put into our baskets. You've shared so much today, but are there any pieces of knowledge from either your PhD, your world as a migrant, as a business owner, as a daughter, as a mum that you'd like to share with our listeners and myself?
I think the biggest, I don't know if it's a piece of knowledge but I think the biggest thing, like you say to anyone, is you're not on your own. And if you're feeling something, you're not the only one who's feeling it. There are lots of people out there who are going through the same experience. And the only way you'll find those people is by putting yourself out there. It's not easy, but so many people are willing to support you, help you, offer advice. If you just have to be comfortable enough to go out and, yeah, share who you are and share your knowledge, because I think even when you post on LinkedIn, sometimes you think, oh, should I write that? Should I not? Because LinkedIn's supposed to be, everyone likes happy stories.
Yeah.
But it's the unhappy stories are where you learn the most from.
Yeah.
Because we'll all go and celebrate success, but it's all those failures that will be the ones, that's where you're going to get the most knowledge and learning from. Um, so yeah, just put yourself out there. Don't be afraid, because there are so many people who are feeling and going through the same challenges that you are.
I love that. I love that. The fact that, a simple phrase like "you are not alone" is so true, because we all feel like we're going through whatever the journey is, whether it is being a new migrant, a new business
Mm,
owner, whether you are unhappy about a certain thing, or whether you're feeling aggrieved about something. We all feel those, but unless we talk about that, we're never going to know that. So that's a really
yeah.
beautiful share. I think it's really important as well in the context of the way the world is going in terms of mental health and well-being. If we keep things in, no one knows, but if you put
Mm.
things out and cry, like Nimeesha says, you can cry. It's
Yeah.
all good because this is good for you to
Fine
do
to
as well.
cry.
It's okay to cry. It doesn't actually matter, which is really beautiful. Thank you for that. That's a beautiful share. Any last words, Nimeesha, about something that you just want to talk about before we wrap up to
I
this
think we've
episode?
covered so much.
We have covered a lot, and
Yeah.
there's so much more. There's so much more depth, and really excited to see what happens in the next 12 months for you. Like I said
Thank
before,
you.
I'm a real fan of your posts on LinkedIn, because, like it's at the start, they're just real, they're just raw and real, which is really beautiful. So thank you for that there. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you for sharing, a tip of the iceberg of your story, but there's so much depth in there that I've learned a lot, and hopefully our listeners have learned a lot. Your time is valuable. I'm gonna go find your product as well and give it a crack. The only problem is I live in an in household, and if I go and buy someone else's product, they're like, "What are you talking about? Why do you not like our food?" So that's the navigation we have
The
to
way
go
you
in.
sell it is you're trying to make their life a lot easier.
Okay, the
So
marketing right
they
there.
don't have to do lots of things. And instead of getting them, buy it and make it meal for your family yourself.
Beautiful. All right, cool. I will do that. Let you know how I go. That's it. There we go. Marketing 101 right there. Exactly. Yeah. Saving time. Beautiful. Thank you so much. For listeners out there, thank you for
Thank
jumping
you for
on.
having
If
me.
you if you are new, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you're not new, thank you for jumping on. And again, as you say, always, hopefully you've learned something in today's podcast. If you haven't, go back and listen again, because you're probably missing those gems. Till next time, don't forget to keep smiling. Don't forget to find something that keeps you happy. And most of all, don't forget to find something to bring to your past knowledge. Till next time, bye everybody. Talk to you day. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.